All right, well, good morning, everybody. I'm here to present the ergonomics section of today's training. And so to start with, we'll start with the definition of ergonomics. What is it? The Oxford Dictionary defines it as the study of people's efficiency in the work environment. So that's kind of a broad definition. So basically, how are you going to work the most efficiently? And a lot of times when we talk about ergonomics, we refer to the safety aspect of that. Are we using our bodies or sitting the correct way? Are we doing that the most efficiently? And so some of you might have guessed it comes from the Greek root ergon, if you're in the THM program, which means what? Work, right? Okay, so again, it has to do with work. OSHA defines it as fitting a job to a person, and it's the study of how to improve the fit between the physical demands of the workplace and the employees who perform the work. Okay, so there's some broad definitions. Now, most of the time when we'll talk about ergonomics, it has to do with, are you sitting correctly or standing correctly, using your body most efficiently that way. But there's also, as I was studying it, it is a little bit broader than that, but most of the times the way that we'll use that has to do specifically with that. Benefits of proper ergonomics. It helps to lessen muscle fatigue. If you're sitting, standing efficiently, working efficiently, it should do that. It increases productivity. It reduces the number and severity of work-related MSDs, and MSDs are musculoskeletal disorders. We'll talk about some of those. And it also helps all of your wildest dreams to come true. Oh, no, wait a second. That's not, I don't know how that got on there. That's only if you vote for Pedro. So, musculoskeletal disorders, MSDs. Here's some examples of those. Carpal tunnel syndrome. So like with your hand, that could be one of them. Tendinitis, rotator cuff injuries. Epicondylitis, I think I'm saying that correctly, which is tennis elbow, affects the elbow. Trigger finger, and muscle strains and low back injuries. Okay, so those are all examples of that. Most of them have to do with, again, your shoulders or your arms, making sure those are working efficiently and safely. Now, MSDs are among the most frequently reported causes of lost or restricted work. So that's why we take anything related to ergonomics so seriously. We want to make sure we can prevent those. In 2013, MSD cases accounted for 33% of all worker injury and illness cases. So that's about a third of all of those cases come from MSDs. The risk factors for them could come from lifting heavy items, bending, reaching overhead, pushing and pulling heavy loads. So some of this also has to do with lifting, and we have a separate lifting training for that. But just remember all those things, lifting with your legs. When you move packages, make sure you're kind of shuffling your feet and you're doing that safely. Working in awkward body postures. So again, a lot of this can come from just when you're at your desk, that you're sitting or standing correctly. And performing the same or similar tasks repeatedly can also be one. I know when I worked in retail a little bit in undergrad, and so when you're at the cash register all day, they talk about, make sure you're, that you're careful of how you're using your arms, because you just do the same thing over and over again. And sometimes you don't think that maybe you're not using the best posture, or maybe you start to, slouch a little bit, and that can affect the rest of your body when you do that. So here's a picture of what proper workstation ergonomics looks like. So here's an example of when you're at your desks, what that could look like. So making sure the top of your monitor is at eye level or maybe just slightly below. Monitor's roughly an arm's length away. Minimal bend at the wrists. And you'll see there the mouse and keyboard are on the same plane. You want to make sure those, you don't have your mouse a little bit further down or keyboard, either way. You want those on the same plane there. Make sure your back's straight, elbows close to the body. And usually we go for 90 degrees when we're setting people up at office stations, making sure that like the bend from your elbow to your arms is about 90 degrees. This one here says it could be anywhere between 90 and 120, but if you just think 90 degrees, it's easy to remember and gives you a good idea of what that should look like. And then we use a lot of these chairs as we're setting people up at workstations, so making sure the backrest is supported well, and there's adjustments you can make so that it fits the person's body the best way. And you also want to make sure your feet are on the ground or resting on a footrest. If you have a little bit shorter legs, you either want to make sure your chair's down a little bit, or you might even want to have a footrest, and we can get those for you if you need, if you notice that maybe something's hurting or doesn't feel quite right. Common myths. Standing instead of sitting will automatically improve your posture. It could be the case. Sometimes if you sit for a long time and you're having problems, they'll recommend that you stand every now and then, and it can help. But if you think about it, if you're standing for a long time, it's easy to just kind of, just get lazy and, maybe start to slouch a little bit, and that's not going to improve anything. So standing won't automatically fix those problems. So it may be something else that needs to change. And ergonomics only has to do with sitting or standing at a desk. Again, we talked about there's some other situations that involve that too. So some of those could include repeated motions, again, doing the same task over and over again, and you just don't even think about it, but maybe you're using your body incorrectly or not the most efficient way. Or lifting or moving heavy objects. So even if you're pushing or pulling something heavy, again, just be smart, make sure you're doing that safely. So what to do if you notice you're having some pain, it's not always ergonomic related. Sometimes it could be something else, but just to check, you want to make sure that that's correct. So you can submit a work order. That's the best way. And one of the things we'll do, facilities handles these, and usually when we see an ergonomic one, that'll go straight to the top of the list or be right there because we want to make sure we deal with that quickly. If there's any issue, we want to make sure that's taken care of. So if you have that, just submit a work order. We'll make sure we get to that. Or you can also just check with your supervisor as needed, just to check in with them. Hey, this has been bothering me for a bit. Do you think this is worth checking on? Which we want to encourage you to do that because we want to make sure that you're standing, sitting efficiently, or if it's something else that you're doing another task, we want to make sure that you're safe as you're doing that. Okay, so that's just kind of a brief presentation on ergonomics. Any questions about any of that? Okay, well, let's go ahead. If you haven't yet, go ahead and look at your quiz, and we can go through that. Does anybody need more time on that?
Joel?
All right, yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you've got a task that is very repetitive, let's say off the top of my head, screwing in a screw with a
Sure.
screwdriver.
Sure, I'm sure you do that quite a bit.
Have
Yeah.
like 100 of those things to do every day. What can be done to compensate for the fact that you're having to repeat something over and over again?
Well, the main thing is just making sure every time you do it that you're just checking yourself, or at least frequently, making sure that it's not just kind of it is. I'm sure it kind of becomes second nature. I know we all have tasks that we do that are kind of second nature, but just making sure before you do it each time, or at least frequently, just checking. Am I using my hand the right way, or is it starting to tense up at all? I know there's some tricks you can use posture-wise too to check. One thing I found, I was a performance major in undergrad, and so like for arms, a lot of the carpal tunnel kind of stuff, if you make sure your elbows are relaxed when you do it, sometimes it's not, you can't always prevent that, but prevent it tensing up. But if your elbows are relaxed, the rest of this musculature is going to be relaxed as well. And so that's one way, like with that sort of emotion, you could make sure that's, that you're using that correctly. Any other questions? And if you ever want like any posture tricks too, I taught choir for a while too. Music was kind of my background, so we did a lot with just kind of being relaxed and having good posture. So if you notice, something's hurting, let me know too, and I'd be happy to share some of those with you. There's some kind of cool stuff that helps you be a little bit more relaxed that way too. All right, well, let's go ahead and do the quiz. Number 1, ergonomics could be defined as? B, right? It does deal with back and shoulder. It is from the Greek root, but B is really the kind of the broad definition that we use that Oxford Dictionary uses. Number 2, correct ergonomics helps to prevent? D, musculoskeletal disorders or MSDs. Risk factors for MSDs include? E, all of the above. So all those, lifting heavy items, bending, all that contributes to the risk factors for those. Improper ergonomics could lead to?
E.
If you watch The Office, it could be E, but what is the correct answer? F. A, C, and D. Okay, don't worry, you won't get Ebola from it, but everything else is a possibility. Number 5, work-related MSDs are among the most frequently reported causes of lost or restricted work time. A, and that's why we want to take this very seriously and make sure we're doing our best with that. Number 6, which of the following is a benefit from proper ergonomics? C, helps lessen muscle fatigue. Number 7, which of the following could help improve ergonomic posture? C, looking at your computer monitor at eye level. So again, just make sure, we usually do that when we set up workstations, but if you just double check that, should be about eye level there. Standing instead of sitting will automatically improve any back, shoulder pain or discomfort.
It's false.
Should be false. Yep, it won't automatically. It could help, but it's not going to automatically help that. So you want to make sure that you're careful of that. Number 9, when sitting at your desk, where should your feet be positioned?
E.
E. So it could be either A or D, just depending on what works best with your legs and body there. So making sure either both feet are on the floor or using a footrest. And then number 10, what is the best position for your mouse and keyboard? A. You want to make sure they're on the same plane there. All right, so go ahead and make sure that's all finished up and pass those in.